Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the mind of the ultimate Renaissance man, Leonardo da Vinci, and we're going to do it through the lens of Walter Isaacson's really popular biography.
But let's kick things off with a fact that might actually surprise you. Despite his monumental fame, there are only about 15 paintings that are fully attributed to him. In fact, he left way more work unfinished than he ever actually completed.
So that's the big question, right? How does a master of incompletion become this global icon of genius? The guy was a walking contradiction, a brilliant artist who also designed war machines, a super meticulous observer who was also a chronic procrastinator. So let's try and unravel this paradox.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by taking apart the whole born genius myth to see the curious mind that was really underneath. Then, we'll step into the workshop where he learned his craft, explore the beautiful chaos of his notebooks, uncover some of the very human, kind of messy stories behind his masterpieces, and then finally, see what timeless lessons his life can offer us today.
First up, let's just deconstruct this myth. Leonardo wasn't born some infallible genius. He was actually born illegitimate. He had no formal education. But he had this insatiable, almost obsessive curiosity. He tells this story about finding a dark cave one day, and he's torn, right, between fear of what's inside and this intense desire to just see what's in there. I mean, that one memory, it perfectly captures the engine of his entire life. This relentless need to know, to see, to understand, even if it meant walking right into the dark.
Now, this curiosity really got sharpened during his apprenticeship in Florence. He was under the master artist Andrea del Verrocchio. And you gotta forget modern art school, this was a bustling, hands-on workshop, a place of craft and commerce.
And it was right here that he forged his core philosophy. See, because he lacked a classical education, he proudly called himself a disciple of experience. So instead of just reading in some old book about how a bird flies, he'd go out and watch them for hours, sketching every single detail of their wings. For him, truth came from seeing it with his own eyes, not from dusty books, which was a pretty radical idea for his time. And you can see this philosophy in action in the moment the student just completely surpassed the teacher. In Verrocchio's painting, Baptism of Christ, Leonardo is assigned to paint the angel on the far left. I mean, just look at the difference. His master's angel is, well, it's competent. But Leonardo's? It's radiant, it's alive, it feels like it's glowing from within. The legend is that Verrocchio was so humbled by his apprentice's skill, he vowed he would never paint again.
But, being a master painter, that was just one small piece of the puzzle for him. When he moved to Milan, his interest just exploded. Science, engineering, anatomy, even theater design. And for him, these weren't separate things at all.
If you look at his private notebooks, and we have over 7,000 pages that survived, they reveal a mind that just saw connections everywhere. He was the guy who figured out that the turbulence in flowing water follows the same math as the curls in a person's hair. He jumped from doodling grotesque faces to designing complex war machines on the exact same page. But his notebooks also show he was very, very human. Take his iconic armored tank, right? A precursor to modern military vehicles. Well, it had a critical design flaw. If you look closely at the gears, you'll see they would have turned the wheels in opposite directions, which means the whole thing would have been completely immobile. So, a genius, yes, but a perfectly imperfect one. And this whole theme of imperfection, it wasn't just in his inventions. It spilled over into his personal life. And that's actually key to understanding both his art and the controversies that still follow him around today. So let's talk about a central figure in his life, a boy named Gian Giacomo Caprati. He joined Leonardo's household when he was only 10 years old. And the historical record, through biographers like Vasari, tells us that Leonardo was just captivated by the boy's beauty. But Leonardo himself quickly nicknamed the boy Salai, which means little devil. And in his own notebooks, he meticulously lists Salai's misdeeds. On just the second day, the kid stole money. So even though he was a known liar and a thief, Salai stayed with Leonardo for decades. It's a really complex and, frankly, to our modern eyes, a pretty troubling relationship that really defies any simple explanation.
And look, it's these complex human stories that bring up a really important point. Everything we think we know about Leonardo is filtered through his biographers. The book we're using, by Walter Isaacson, it's fantastic for making Leonardo accessible to everyone. But some historians argue it focuses too much on the art and not enough on his science, and they might suggest other books for a more scholarly take. It's just a good reminder that history is always an ongoing conversation.
So, after all of this, the brilliant, the flawed, the beautiful, the messy, What can we possibly take away from this life? What does it all mean for us 500 years later?
Well, Isaacson boils it all down to a few key lessons that we can actually apply to our own lives. Be relentlessly curious. Ask why the sky is blue. Learn to observe the world with an intensity that other people miss. Indulge your fantasy. Blur the lines between what's real and what you can imagine. And maybe most importantly, always look for the connections between art and science, between beauty and engineering. For Leonardo, it was all just one grand quest for knowledge.
So we'll leave you with this question. In an age that pushes all of us to specialize, what do we lose when we stop trying to cultivate a universal mind? Leonardo da Vinci's life is this powerful reminder that maybe true genius isn't about perfection. Maybe it's about the relentless curiosity to see the whole, beautiful, interconnected picture.